I don't think I really understood the full extent of the situation, right? I understood that my parents are separated, things are not going well, but there were a lot of nuances to it that I missed in the sense that my sister stayed with my father, right? And then I moved with my mother to Maryland. We were based in Virginia, and then I went off with my mother to Maryland. I didn't understand that how it was affecting my sister, I would say. That I totally missed. She's 5 years older than me. And that means at that time, what is fourth grade? I was like 8?
Ninth grade.
Fourth grade.
She's in ninth.
Oh, she's in ninth grade, yeah. So she was 13, 14. And this is something that I actually talked about with her recently, and I hadn't even realized that this was what was running through her head. But there was a lot of her, she felt as if she failed a lot of her like older sibling duties to, one, kind of keep the family together, right? Two, to take care of me, because we no longer live together. And I saw her a lot as over my parents, you know, they were going through their own problems. Then who did I resort to for like parental guidance? It was my older sister. And the minute that we separated, right, I no longer had that. And she was like, hey, I think I kind of failed my little sister. And the fact that I'm almost one, she could have chosen, she actually moved to Maryland for like a day, right? She went to Queens Orchard for a day. She went to QO for a day, okay. Right? She was like, no, I can't do this. I miss my friends. I miss everything. Moved back.
She went for you? Or what?
For me, and the fact that for my mom,
okay.
Because it was understood that my dad could, on some level, financially support himself and emotionally support himself, right? Whereas I think we both saw that, hey, I think my mom is the one in the situation who needs more of this like emotional support. And both of us decided to stay with my mom to give her that. And my sister just couldn't though, so she moved back to Virginia. And that's something I didn't realize has like stayed on her mind, the fact that she felt like, hey, I kind of left my little sister to deal with whatever struggles that my mom was going through, and the fact that I no longer had her like mentorship anymore, right? So I haven't lived with her in a very, very long time. And that in itself was, I would say, you could say, call it a broken relationship. What me and my sister, I wouldn't say it's, I think we're doing much better now. I would say it's not like a necessarily, you know, it wasn't like a linear path that we took, but yeah.
When you talked to her recently?
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was so interesting. So she doesn't like to come home too often for reasons unsaid, but yeah, when she does come home, it's primarily for me, right? And I had felt as if that, I was like, hey, you haven't really been contacting me a lot, right? And I was like, well, I feel like I contact you more than you contact me, and it feels like a one-sided relationship, right? If you care about this relationship, why don't you reach out to me more? And why don't you come home more, right? And so then she did come home. That was the first time this year. And I confessed her all of these feelings. I was like, hey, what are you doing? And then she ended up actually breaking down. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't mean to do that. Why are you crying? And there was she divulged into this very long, like, bearing her soul to me that like, hey, this is how I feel. I think a lot of the times I have this guilt that I failed you as a sister, that I failed this family as like in our culture, there's a lot of like emphasis on the firstborn child, right? And their duties and being filial to the parents and things like that. And I think she felt a lot of that pressure and didn't think she met those expectations, especially because our family is not like the typical, like nuclear family in America. Yeah. So there was that. And I think having that very long, like we had like a 6-hour conversation about this in the car. It was very long, and I thought, wow, like this was really good, because I felt to recognize that you experienced this broken relationship in a much different way than I experienced. And I was projecting a lot of my experiences onto you and assuming that like I knew you, when in reality, we haven't lived together in so long. I know nothing about her. But the whole time I was like, you know nothing about me. Like, you don't reach out to me. Like, what do you know about me? And I forgot that, hey, I know nothing about her, right? And that was also a failure on my part, right? So, but enough about me.
Okay, well, when you were, like, what you were saying, I'm an older sister.
Yes.
So my brother was maybe your age when my parents got divorced. I think he was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
And I think at first he like didn't understand it, which is similar to what you said, and he kind of didn't say anything about it for a really long time. And then he like a couple years later, there was one day where he just like broke down crying about it. And is that, I don't know, is that similar to what you felt? What, like
when I was younger?
Yeah. Like,
I'm not sure. I also will say this. I have a very blurry like memory of a lot of my childhood, and I think it's because it was like sort of a trauma response, right? So I can, but even then, I mean, like his experience is his own unique experience, so like doesn't necessarily have to be the same as mine.
Yeah.
But I would like to hear more about like when was he breaking down like because you were with him, or it was just arbitrarily like? Yeah.
He broke down that day because I think he like wasn't sure why my dad left. Like I think he kind of like he just didn't know. Like it's like I think it was just like an overwhelming.
Yeah. And did you have to come in and be like, hey?
I feel like I didn't know what to say. Like it was my mom and I there, and we were just kind of like. Yeah.
Who lives with who?
So we both live with my mom.
Yeah.
But we go to my dad's house.
Is he nearby?
He's an hour away.
Okay. That's not bad at all. Yeah. And how would you say that, like your parents, does your parents' relationship affect the way that you view relationships?
Yes. Because I do not want to get divorced at all.
Really? Yeah.
No. I mean, I don't think anybody does.
I don't think it. Yeah. Good mindset.
Yeah. But I feel like.
Do you think they made a mistake?
Good question. Okay, so both my parents are believers. They're both Christian.
Right.
And the Bible does talk about like loving your wife, respecting your husband, staying together, except for like in certain circumstances. And to add on to like the kind of religious thoughts, we're from Egypt, so it's like there nobody gets divorced. Like that's just, it's weird. So growing up, it like wasn't a thought in my mind that they would get divorced. It wasn't like they were arguing all the time. It was just like, I don't know, like it seemed like a good relationship in my eyes.
Yeah.
So now I feel like having watched their relationship, it makes me think a lot more about like, how do I be intentional in a relationship? And how do you like, in my mind, that like, I feel like there's a lot of ways to define broken relationship, which I'm curious about your thoughts on, because it's like, it can be like parents, it can be sister, whatever, and friends. So I'm thinking like, I'm trying to define it, and for me, it might be like a relationship where God isn't glorified, which can look like a lot of different things. And I feel like
glorified.
Yeah.
What do you mean by glorified?
Where his character isn't exalted, where it's not like like the way I kind of see it is like all humans kind of orbit around something. So like even like it, I don't know, like for me it probably used to be a lot of different things, but like I used to more revolve and be consumed in like my grades and sports and a lot of different things. And I think that we're meant to revolve around God. And I think in the same way, like I can revolve around God, and also like a relationship can revolve around God. So I don't think any relationship does that perfectly, but I think like that's my working definition.
What does revolving around God look like for you?
I would say being aligned with his will.
And his will is?
Interesting. His will, I think a lot of it is revealed to us in the Word of God, in the Bible, and a lot of it is revealed to us by being in a relationship with him.